looking at your time at Kidderminster, then I know you were at Peterborough, I think, coming on loan initially for a month. How did the wheels turn, do you recall, in terms of your first awareness of the club and the deal that took you here?
Yeah, well, I was sharing with you off camera that I was 21. You know, I was in that classic fallout age, 17 to 21, 18 to 21 that they're talking about. And I'd have been another statistic. I don't have any doubt about that. I was on loan at Nuneaton Borough from Peterborough. I had still 2 years left of my contract. I was on loan in the conference, struggling. And then a mentor, a family friend at a party, we got talking, my 21st birthday. And he just said, look, if you ever want to talk, and he knew football, both his sons had played, and he was just someone to talk to and share my feelings. And I started to bang a few goals in at Nuneaton. Literally after that conversation, we were speaking daily. I then got a call from Barry Fry saying, look, Nuneaton want to take you on loan with a view to a permanent. Kidderminster want to take you on loan with a view to a permanent. Jan Molby was manager. He'd been on loan at Norwich City at the end of his career, where I was a young player, played in the reserves with him. So that came about. It was a month. So again, the things that fans don't know about, I'm turning up here. Everything's on the line. I have to make sure that 4 weeks goes really well. What does that look like for me? 6 games. I knew there were 6 matches. Let's be honest, I've got to score at least 3 goals. You know all this stuff coming into it, so that's what I have to achieve. I managed to find a really good mental place in that month, scored the goals, scored in my first game here, and got the contract. And then, this club's where my career really kicked off for me. I actually put some numbers on the board, games-wise. All of a sudden people go, okay, he's played that many games now and there's a few goals, and so this is where it all started, really.
And in terms of what brought you here permanently, I'm going to mention 2 factors. A, I gather your agent at the time was a familiar face to Harriers fans, but also the pull of the manager at the time. You mentioned him, Jan Molby. For even young player at the time there, you would be aware of his significance.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember him coming to Norwich, and Norwich was a big club, and he walked in. I remember, even senior pros there going, "Oh, Jan Molby, Liverpool legend." So people were fully aware. As a young player, I was aware. And I wrote in the book actually that I think if him and I today were to sit down and have a beer or a chat, we'd actually have a lot in common. I think he looked at me a lot actually during the time, and again the confusion I caused a lot of managers. I think he looked at me and thought, he's just like, there's many traits that I had that probably he has, this high achieving mindset, obsessive, but he was able to just relax and play, and that's one thing I took, and I could never grasp it. He was so relaxed, just give me the ball, and so yeah, I certainly learned a lot from him. Yeah.
And I'm assuming Colin sorted you out with a reasonable deal.
And Colin was my first agent, working for a company in London, and it came about, and sorted the contract out at the time.
And you mentioned putting numbers on the board here. I think I'm right in saying that in terms of actual matches played, you played more games for Kidderminster than for any individual club.
Is that right?
That's
probably right. Yeah.
Is that a reflection of the significance of that part in your career?
Yeah, and isn't it strange? Because probably because during that period, 21 to 23 and a half, 21 to 24, 25, there was that 2-3 years. I think what happens then, by about 25, you've been full-time since 16, so nearly 10 years. And then just you get 25 as a footballer, near the finish line, nearly 30, got more pressure every year, got to score. So actually after that, I think the pressure mounted. And it's a shame, because at this club, many times I was impressing. I remember Alan Pardew, bumping into him once, and we played a pre-season friendly here against Reading, I think. And I was on form that day. I bullied them, played really well. And remember bumping into him down. My friend was at Reading on loan and went down to watch a game on a Sunday. It was a Sky game. Sitting, he bumped into me after. He said, "You're a hell of a player, a real handful. Keep doing what you're doing." And so I'm going home, thinking, well, there's big people watching me. And I think that was always the case, but no one ever committed because there was such inconsistency with me. So.
And it would be remiss that Harriers fan inside be not to ask about some of your most memorable sort of moments. I guess he scored a fair share of goals. Everyone talks about the partnership with Drewe, the goal at Swansea away. I mean, what would you, if you had to pick a couple, where would you go to in the memory?
I never forget my first goal here, because like I say, the pressure for me was big. It was a real chance to get my career going, and I scored down at home end there, and I think we might have even won the game. So I remember that one. I remember Swansea, but other people remember it more, I think, than I remembered it. Obviously it was a header from barely a yard out, but it was to break a drought. I think it was probably 15, 16 matches or something, maybe even more. So I remember those two. Remember the Cardiff City game here when it was a freezing, frosty pitch just after Christmas, about this time, but maybe Boxing Day. I remember that game. I had loads of memories. It was nice driving up here today.
And a lot of people who played for Kidderminster have played for so-called bigger clubs, played in bigger stadiums with bigger fan bases, but a lot of people, when they look back at their time here, talk about the club with a kind of affection that you might not have for other clubs. Would you say that's about fair?
Yeah, they've kept their spirit. You know, I think that's the thing that goes, isn't it? I mean, forget the top level. That's been spiritless for years, mainly because it's so big. But even League One level, and it's hard to keep that spirit and that community feel. In Kidderminster, I think I can see why.
I know we've talked before about when you were here, the fact that the club was at the time flying high in League Two. I guess you can almost take for granted really how difficult it is to do that as a football club, isn't it? And those, in that respect, it was only a 5-year period in the Football League, but they were good days, weren't they?
They were, and while you're in it as a player, you're just thinking, okay, you've got your own career. But actually now coming out, and then this week you look back and you think, wow, for a club the size of Kidderminster to be riding high, because we weren't just surviving. We were taking some big scalps. Remember the whole game at home, and we were Cardiff City. We were, the club was in a good place. You can't take it for granted. Really difficult to do. And I would imagine, like any business, it comes from good leadership at the top and then a good manager. It's the two things work.
And we've talked briefly about the club's hopes and ambitions for the future. I know that's something you would love to see succeed, I guess.
Yeah, I really would. I think just from talking to you about what those plans are is exciting. Because this club can go back, and you look at the teams that are in the Football League now. The Kidderminster is bigger than a fair few clubs that are in there. So it's all possible. Yeah.